Today I'll be talking about the aloofness of Keats, or was Keats an escapist? So let's begin. So first of all, we should clear the point that who is called an escapist, or what the aloofness of Keats is. An escapist is a person who fights shy of stern realities of life, its problems, its misery and suffering, and flies to an imaginary world of beauty and romance. From the world of reality, he escapes to the world of his own imagination and reveals in the ivory tower of his fertile imagination. In fact, the glorification of imagination was the credo of the Romantic poetry. By their plastic imagination, the Romantic poets created a world of their own. They were very much imaginative. So they escaped to the world of nature, to the Middle Ages, to the ancient world of the Greeks, and also a future of Utopia or utopian future. So all the Romantic poets can be labeled as escapists, with the possible exception of Wordsworth. Keats is regarded the greatest escapist among them, for he was the least concerned with the political and social movements of the time. He lived in a world of sensuous beauty, the world of romance in the Middle Ages, and the ancient Greek way of life. Now let's talk about Keats as an escapist. Despite, however, the courage he showed in his devotion to truth, he was often been described as an escapist, as a person who, unable to face the stern realities of life, tried to escape through his poetry to an ideal world of the imagination. As Courthope refers to Keats' efforts to create such an ideal world, unaffected by the social influence of his age. Stopford A. Brooke, in his book Studies and Poetry, also writes in the same strain and points out that Keats, unlike his great contemporaries, ignored the life and death struggle and the turmoils that gathered around the French Revolution, and did not represent them in his poetry. He had no vital interest in the present, not in man as a whole, not in the fortune of mankind, not in liberty, equality, and fraternity. All the religious and philosophical questions of the soul and its relation to the natural world, of duty to our fellow men, of whether materialism or idealism, were true questions which were vital to Wordsworth, Coleridge, Byron, Shelley, and afterwards to Tennyson, Browning, and Matthew Arnold, which, though not discussed as doctrines, yet water like rivers all the landscape of their work. These left him cold. It is as if they never existed in the world. Even when a vague heartache beset him and he realized that the world was troubled, his impulse was to fly from it, to drink of the true, the blushful Hippocrene, and to leave the world unseen, and with the nightingale fade far away into the forest dim. There was his temper, and this is the strange new position of Keats as a poet. In relation to the impulse of revolution, that impulse is dead in Keats. He wished for a life of sensations rather than of thoughts, and revelled in the pleasures of the senses, sights and scenes of nature, medieval and Greek way of life, and physical beauty. He also wished to escape from the world of suffering and misery, as we notice in it Ode to a Nightingale. In one of his letters, he also confessed, "I feel more and more every day that I do not live in this world alone, but in thousands of worlds." But some people say that in his maturer work, Keats is not an escapist. He was not escaping the real life. He was not going to imagination. Keats' early work is frankly sensuous and escapist in nature. When he came to grip with the problems of mortality, of sufferings and sorrows of life, he learned that the escape from life was neither possible nor desirable. He was not a sentimental weakling who covered in awe his shell, but a brave man who faced the grim realities of life and ultimately emerged with an outlook on life. As his vision matured, he bade farewell to the joys, as he said, "Yes, I must pause them for a nobler life, where I may find the agonies, the strife of human hearts."